Hello, welcome to Luigi's Gaming Lounge. It's Luigi 8 Mario, and today we are recording episode 41. I have with me here Trip Hazard, aka
Barnaby. Hello.
And I also have Terrors, aka
Sam. Hello.
Hello, guys. So, this episode, I thought it was quite fitting to discuss. Well, we're discussing a couple of things, but the first thing I'd like to discuss are movies and TV shows that have got their origins from games. As it's becoming, more and more popular, we're seeing a lot more movies and TV shows being made because of games, and I've got to say that makes me very happy. So the reason I say that as well, why I'd like to discuss it this week, is because I think it was only a couple of days ago in the sort of gaming news world that they mentioned that BioShock is actually getting a movie which will be releasing on Netflix. I've not actually, I'll put my hands up here, I've not played any of the BioShock games, which
Boo,
get out. I think Barnaby...
We're taking a lounge off you.
Yeah, I think Barnaby's quite surprised about. But yeah, I mean, as I said, we've got Uncharted. I don't even know if Uncharted... I think it's out, or it's almost out, isn't it? Uncharted.
It's released in... its initial release was on the 18th.
Yeah. So, actually, tomorrow.
Yeah, tomorrow.
Yeah, so I mean, I'm really interested to see,
I'm interested to see what they're doing with it as well.
Yeah.
It'd be also nice to see Tom Holland outside of Spider-Man as well.
Definitely, because he's a great actor. I think he's a great actor, especially.
I agree.
We've seen him act in the Spider-Man movies, and he's fantastic in those. But yeah, like you said, to see him in a role outside of that, really looking forward to that. Is there anything, Barnaby, that you're sort of you've got on your list that you can't wait to come out? TV show, movie from a game?
Yeah. So I'd say that probably there's a couple of things actually. So yeah, BioShock. I am interested to see what they would do with that. But also the Resident Evil series that's coming to Netflix, I believe, soon as well. So both of those have piqued my interest.
The Resident Evil series, is that the
live action? Yeah.
Is it? I thought it was animation. No, am I wrong?
So there have been several CGI films developed in Japan that also saw limited release. In the West as well. I've only seen 2 of them, and they're okay. They're not terrible. They're not fantastic, but they're entertaining enough.
Okay.
I think there's been about 3 or 4 Resident Evil CGI films in total. And I think the CGI format does suit video game adaptations well. But it has to be done right. And I think when you look back to the early days of game to film adaptations, like Final Fantasy: The Spirits Within was released late 90s, and it was basically a bomb, basically, because it was just boring. Right, so yeah, the CGI for its time was impressive, but they didn't do much with it. It just didn't wow you, and the plot and the characters weren't anything special to write home about either. But yeah, I'm looking forward with cautious optimism for the Resident Evil series, and also with BioShock, because BioShock's quite interesting because it dealt with things like looking at things from a philosophical and a moral standpoint, what's acceptable, what's unacceptable.
Right.
And what kind of things can happen if the laws of morality no longer apply. So it'll be interesting, potentially.
No, it sounds good.
Yeah. I think the main thing is, one more point is, I think the main thing and why in the past video game adaptations have not always been done well is just because they just haven't had the right people doing them.
Yes.
So obviously writing and directing isn't easy, but you never really see A-listers doing video game adaptations. You never hear of like Steven Spielberg or Quentin Tarantino doing a video game adaptation, for example. Yeah, and I think that's what
true.
until it's taken more seriously, as a viable
You
artistic
might not
medium.
see that level of quality and.
Yeah, so we either need to take an existing A-list director, or one needs to rise up through the ranks.
Yeah.
Potentially, like, elevate video game adaptations to the next level, and that's what I'd like to see in the coming years, especially.
Yeah, no, it makes sense. Andy, are you there? I think you've joined us.
I have joined you. I'm really sorry I'm late to the party. I've literally just walked in.
No worries.
You snuck in the back door, did you?
He snuck in
It's the only way to get into Luigi's lounge. Or Luigi.
Don't let everybody know, blimey. Okay.
Oh,
They'll all be hammering at your back door, Luigi.
No, glad
Tony jealous.
Yeah,
It's always open.
I'm glad you can make it. So thank you very much. Terrors, Sam.
Yes.
Is there anything that you've seen that piques your interest in regards to the movie and TV shows of a game?
Well, it's a difficult one really, because originally it was a movie, then a game, and now there's a series going, which we spoke about just before the podcast, which is Lord of the Rings for me.
Yeah, fair enough.
So yeah, I mean, originally movies, obviously, really, really good movies.
Poor Tolkien. Spent all that time writing.
Well, actually, books. Yeah, true. I was talking like from a videography and gaming point of view.
I know. Sorry, I was only teasing. Ignore me.
Obviously, the books were first, but yeah, as far as like a digital concept goes, like I was sort of saying from the film to the game, and then we go into a series. So yeah.
It's a lot.
Should have definitely just took all the credit from Tolkien. So I actually invented it. Like,
I think Sam's got a good point though, in that it is becoming more multimedia nowadays.
Yeah,
and you can have a book, a video game, and a film, and whatever else, all releasing round about the same time nowadays.
Yes.
Yeah.
Whereas maybe in the past it was a much more long-winded period. So you'd say like 5-10 years from a book to a film adaptation, and then you could see maybe another 5 years or so before the video game comes out. But I think it's a lot more compressed nowadays.
Yeah, certainly.
So that looks quite impressive. Amazon, it's coming to Amazon. I believe. Was it this year? I'm sure I read it was meant to be this year.
I believe it's this year.
Yeah, I saw an article the other day.
Like September this year or something like that.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure you're right, because like I said, I did see an article the other day, and I'm sure it was more sort of towards the second half of the year. But yeah, it's definitely worth, even though, as I said, it started off as a book and movies, etc. Obviously, we had the games, especially sort of the ones that released on the PS2 era.
Yeah, they were actually quite highly rated, those games.
Oh, I loved them. I played them a lot. So I'll give you a pass on that one, Sam, because the games were brilliant.
Yeah. So no, not quite the same approach as to what I know what you were trying to sort of get out with.
Yeah. No, that's
to films or to series.
No, but
it's kind of for me.
Still got their own games, haven't they? So it's all cool.
Yeah.
Andy, is there anything that's taking your interest, TV show, movie, that comes from a game?
I'll be honest, I'm not a huge fan of sort of like crossovers and films that are made into, or games that are made into films. Mm-hmm. With that being said, I've got a real sweet spot for films in recent times that are based on made-up video games. So such things as Wreck-It Ralph. Wreck-It Ralph's not a real video game, but I think it's a great film.
Yeah, brilliant.
Ready Player One. Yes, it's obviously tapping into the cult following and the classic games and films and things like that. But the whole pretense of it is based on a fictional VR world and things like that. And more recently, Free Guy with Ryan Reynolds.
Brilliant
I turned my nose up to it, and I thought, oh no, it's just going to be cheesy, cardboard cut out Ryan Reynolds. He can only play one role. But I watched it, and what a roller coaster ride of emotions. I thought it was really well written. I had tears in my eyes at some point. It was having me laugh out loud at some point, and I just thought it was a fantastic film.
Yeah.
So it's these films, like Ready Player One was obviously based on a book, but Wreck-It Ralph and Free Guy, they're just unique intellectual property, so they're not based on anything, and I kind of like that because
I'd agree with you there, and I think that's maybe what we should expect, or at least expect better performance from, because it's not based on a particular IP. It gives the directors and the writers a lot more freedom, so they can take inspiration from video games or create their own fictional video games, but they're not constrained. They don't have to shoehorn in concepts and characters and plot lines from video games where they don't necessarily fit in a movie.
Yeah, definitely.
I agree with that.
And if you are basing it on something that already exists, you've already set certain expectations, and you can't.
Exactly.
It's very much when films are based on books. People who have read the books have already envisaged in their imagination what they foresee it to look like, and if it doesn't necessarily match, the original reader's vision of it, even though the film could be amazing, some people might. It's going to be like Marmite. So having that unique approach, I think, is the way forward. With that being said, I did obviously grow up in the or I say grow up. I got exposed to some terrible films in the 90s, so I am going to give
I think we all did.
That Street Fighter the movie, brilliant. Not Super Mario Brothers, fantastic. Not
Mario and Luigi Mario.
I love that Super Mario Bros. Show.
So
the cartoon was actually decent, but the film was questionable.
Oh, It had Captain. Is it Captain N?
Yeah, Captain N, the Game Master.
That was a great series as well. I think
it seemed great at the time, but then when you actually look back at it, it was terrible.
Don't ruin my childhood, Barney. I'm clinging on to that, otherwise I'm resorting to Mortal Kombat.
I'd agree with Sam that the Super Mario cartoon, and I'd also add to that the Sonic the Hedgehog cartoons, were probably the best of the 90s animated adaptations of video games.
Yeah.
About Dungeons and Dragons?
That was a role-playing game before it was a video game.
Yeah.
Yeah, true. Well, it still
Poor
comes
Gary Gygax, he did all that game designing.
Well, I tell you, one that I totally forgot about, and it's just jogged my memory because I've just seen it now as we've been talking. I'm really looking forward, and I know, Andy, you wasn't a fan of this game, or you didn't give it the time of day, but The Last of Us, yes, I cannot wait, because I am
looking forward to that as well, but to a degree, the game itself was almost like a movie or a TV series in itself, so I'm not sure what they can actually do with it, other than unless they take it in an entirely new direction. I think they'll just be replaying essentially the cutscenes from the game.
That movie might work for me because I never played the game, so I could just watch a film and save me all that time.
To be honest with you,
I haven't got those expectations built up from playing a game either.
You see,
it's true.
I loved the game that much that even if that ends up being the case, that they follow, the story of the game, I'd more than happily sit through and watch it, even though I know what would be coming. But I don't think that's going to be the case. I do think there's going to probably be some sort of twists and turns in there. But
I imagine so.
I've got big hopes for that, and also coming out next month, we all need to watch it. Halo. I mean, does that not have any of you excited? I mean, I can't wait.
The trailer did look really cool, but it's whether the characters and a decent storyline to go along with it.
Yeah, a little bit.
Having it all shiny, it's not going to cut it. It has to have
I have to say, I'm not the biggest Halo fan. It's a good game, but it never really gripped me on a personal level.
Get the fuck out. There's the exit. Go.
It's just the characters and the plot just didn't really grip me.
No, fair enough.
It's a solid game. Yeah, it's definitely solid.
This is a game that I've not actually sat and played, but I know at least Andy and Barnaby, I know you've played the games. It looks like there's going to be a Borderlands movie.
Yes.
That could be really cool if they do a certain sort of art style to their cinematography.
Yeah,
potentially. But then it could easily go quite wrong as well.
Yeah. I mean, from what I've seen of Borderlands, I think, the idea of a sort of a movie from that would be, it'd be make for a very entertaining movie if done right. But
I think one of the things is because Borderlands is such an action-heavy game, is that as a cinema experience, as a film experience, you have to get that balance right. All action, it just becomes a bit shallow. But then if you don't have any action at all, then you're going to isolate part of your audience who's come to expect that.
Yeah.
So I think that's a fine line to walk.
Yeah.
I'll reiterate. I just don't get excited over any video games turning into films or TV shows. I don't know why. It just doesn't do it for me. I like playing a game or I like watching a film. And I think the film industry is bad enough doing this rinse and repeat anyway. Having a unique IP in the film industry is something special nowadays. Let alone, again, copying another industry as well. It just
Exactly, yeah. Like a series is barely finished before they're remaking it nowadays.
Yeah.
Well, Andy, I know you're a huge fan of this, right? So how do you feel about that? There's going to be a TV show of Fallout.
The problem with TV shows is, again, they're two a penny. There is so many being released at any given time. There's just not enough time in the day to watch them. Yeah, like games. And again, just because I enjoy playing the game, but that doesn't necessarily mean I'm going to enjoy watching a film. I'd much rather, we're going off the track of the game slightly, but the most recent film I watched was 3 Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri. So really random film, but it's won a couple of Oscars a few years back. And I thought, you know what, I'm going to watch that. It's original, it's unique. And it was an absolute fantastic film. So the time I do have spare, I like to sort of invest it in originality, rather than something that's, again, been rinse and repeat or copying something. It just doesn't do it for me. So I do love the Fallout games. I love the Halo games, but the Halo TV series, yes, it looks great. Again, if you're going to, does it look any different to some of the Marvel series that are out? And then the Marvel series, I love the first Marvel Cinematic Universe, but Christ Almighty, it's going off in every which direction. You just can't keep up with it because there's not enough time. Yeah. I'm much more, especially with the films and TV. I like the original concepts. And just because it's a game that I'm a fan of, it won't necessarily sell it to me. It has to have a lot more than just a title or a brand behind it.
Yeah, no, fair enough. I mean, that makes sense. I do see your point, 100%. But then on the other hand, you see, because I've watched the first one of this, what I'm about to say, which I didn't realise they were bringing out a second one. They're bringing out Pokemon Detective Pikachu 2. Now, hear me out here, because when I initially saw the first one, the trailer for the first one, I really was like, how, initially, even though obviously it's a Pokemon movie, the trailer, it just didn't feel like Pokemon, as we know it. So I was very sceptical watching it. But I actually found, as I was watching it, I was like, this is actually really good. I was thoroughly enjoying that movie. So it has got me hyped for the second one, and I hope they do just as good a job. But yeah, I mean, Barnaby, it sounds like you agree with what I'm saying there in regards to, it's not, the movie isn't Pokemon as we know it. It's sort of, they go off in a bit of a different direction with this this movie.
Thematically it is entirely different from almost everything else in the Pokemon universe, from what I can tell. So thematically it goes off on a vast tangent, but I think we were kind of had to be expecting that, really, when they cast Ryan Reynolds as the voice of Pikachu.
Yeah, true.
So I think when you hear about that casting like that, you have to kind of take a step back and think, well, that's not traditional casting we're looking at.
Yeah.
But I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. I think that IPs do have to grow and expand, otherwise they become stale.
But I suppose
sometimes risks don't pay off, and sometimes they do. So I think you just got to weigh up the good and the bad. But no, I enjoyed it. Again, it's one where I think that the beginning and the middle of the film were really good. Ending let it down a little bit because I mentioned before we started the podcast that I think the problem with a lot of modern films is that they don't know how to end properly.
Yeah.
Generally, they put all the good stuff at the beginning and the middle, and they leave nothing for the end. Yeah. But that's kind of by the by. But yeah, I am again cautiously optimistic for the second Detective Pikachu. I certainly enjoyed the first one, and it'll be interesting to see what they do for the sequel.
Yeah, and I mean, I've used that as an example because obviously with Andy mentioning about sort of the movie of a game, on what they can do. I mean, this particular movie sort of shows how it still obviously ties in with the games, but they've gone in a different direction to the. Do you get what I mean? To like the general sort of Pokemon game. So do you get what I mean? Like it's still Pokemon, but it's not. It's a different experience to actually playing the Pokemon game.
Much different, yeah. Much different, yeah. I mean, I would say that it's first and foremost a comedy film. Well, it's basically a comedy detective film.
Yes,
and they could have replaced the Pokemon with any other fantastical creatures, and it still would have made sense. You just wouldn't have had that context because the world at large is already familiar with Pokemon.
Yeah.
So in a way, it's not truly a Pokemon film, but rather a film that has kind of like that happens to have Pokemon in it, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, no, totally understand. But yeah,
ironically, I've never played a Pokemon game in my life, so I apologise to our listeners. But I have watched the film and I enjoyed the film. But I don't know whether I would have enjoyed it if I played the games. But I went into that. I think we've got
like the connecting factor is here that Free Guy had Ryan Reynolds in, and Detective Pikachu had Ryan Reynolds in. So
I've got a semi-lob on for Ryan Reynolds.
Well, no, we just have to make sure that any future video game adaptations contain Ryan Reynolds, and then we'll be all right.
Right? Would he be a Ken or a Guile in a Street Fighter remake?
I would see him as a Guile.
Guile, yeah.
Yeah, it'd be a Guile.
Sam's having nightmares already of that thought.
I am.
Well, in regards to the sort of movies and TV series, there's so much here, like we said, that I think you could discuss all the different ones for a very long time. So we've got a general feel, for how we all view them. And I think we'll leave that there with that and move on to Cyberpunk, as they have now released the next gen update. So Cyberpunk 2077. So there's new features with this next gen update, such as new weapons, new apartments for the character. States here, hairdressing mirror. I didn't know that was a big issue, but yeah, hairdressing mirror. Rebalance of gameplay, economy and loot systems. Ray trace local shadows and various visual quality improvements. And there's some audio improvements, improved crowd reactions. Now, the reason I wanted to discuss about this, obviously, when it came out, there was a massive hoo-ha. The game essentially was broken, and now that this next gen update is here, and supposedly this is the game it should be, has that ship sailed for you guys, or are you interested in visiting it or revisiting it at all?
Well, I bought it when it was released.
Yeah.
Installed, played it. To be honest with you, I know it had a lot of issues when it first came out. For me, the main issue was the fact that it was poorly optimized and it didn't run very well on my machine.
Mm-hmm.
And I've not got a super duper machine by at all. But I've got a 1070, and at the time of release, I was expecting to get more than like 30 frames out the game. So it was pretty disappointing for me on that front. But apart from, obviously that side of it, I mean, what did I play it for? Probably 4 or 5 hours I put into it before I, again, did the typical, play a game for a few hours and then family life gets in the way, and then you just end up not going back to it, and then you go on to another game kind of thing. So
it's adult syndrome.
Yeah, that's it. So I didn't really get into it enough to be affected by some of the more major issues that people were complaining about, because if for me, it was a struggle just to run the game, let alone actually then additionally moan about other things that were wrong with it. So I mean, if I get the time, I would like to go and revisit it. I think it would be pretty good to play it through, and because I haven't actually played it all the way through and completed it, it's probably be quite a good experience to do that now after all the updates. Whereas a lot of people who did put all those hours in and played it, all the way through and the rest of it, they're probably the ones that are feeling like the ship has sailed. Do you know what I mean? Because they've kind of thought, well, I put all that time in, they've probably felt like it was a big waste of their time. Whereas me, I'm kind of, there was still plenty of game left for me to play, if you know what I mean. So
I think, because you see, obviously, as we touched on in regards to like the movies and TV shows, there's a lot of obviously new games coming out and so on. So a lot of people are seeing it as, well, do you know what? You had your chance, you've missed your slot. This game's coming out this month, this game's coming out next month, etc., etc. So it seems quite split. There's a lot of people sort of dismissing it and just thinking, on to the next thing. But then there are people still hyped. I mean, I gave it a few hours to try it out, and to be honest with you, I just wanted to see what it was like. Initially, I was quite impressed with it. I thought it was a decent game. Yes, there was issues.
Spent 17 hours on the character customization, choosing the penis for your man.
I thought that was you when you came here to try it.
Yeah, all right. I may have spent a little longer than I should have.
I think you were
scrutinising those pixels.
I remember.
I can't argue that.
I remember Andy being in awe that he could choose his penis size for his character.
Well, it's the only time I can have a bigger one than 2 inches. So
brilliant. But on that note, Andy, I mean, have you got any interest in playing this game at all?
I'll sum this up pretty quick. I was really, 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 really excited for Cyberpunk. The cameo with Keanu Reeves obviously sold a little bit to me. Obviously, the game developer behind it, came from good pedigree. The whole Cyberpunk sort of setting, I loved it. I was really looking forward to it. And then I've never known a game to crash and burn quite as successfully as they did, to the point of like PlayStation refunding people's purchases.
Yeah.
It was also released at a time where the next gen had just come out, but they didn't release the next gen. So I was like in that crossroads where I was like, well, if I want to play a game of this caliber, I want to play it as optimized as I can. So in my mind, the ship sailed. I would love to say I'd love to play it, and there's part of me still does. But again, going back to the time aspect, it's quite a big game, and I don't have enough time to commit. So in my mind, personally, the ship sailed, and I don't think it's going to be one I'll pick up now.
Yeah, fair enough. That's perfectly reasonable explanation. Barnaby, how about yourself? Have you ever had any interest, or do you have any interest?
Well, actually, one time, a little while ago now, I actually played the tabletop role-playing game that Cyberpunk is based on.
Oh, okay.
Although it's gone through a couple of iterations since then, because it was originally released in the 1980s. So all of the tech in the game was based on what people in the 1980s thought life in like 2020 would be.
Okay.
And originally the game was actually titled Cyberpunk 2020 because that was so far in the future.
Yeah.
And it was good fun. There's a lot you can do with characters, different character classes. Like in Dungeons and Dragons, you'd have things like clerics and bards and warriors and so forth. Whereas in the Cyberpunk game, you'd play as something like an enforcer, like a cop, for example, or you could be in the media, like being this PR dude, or you could be like a I forget the exact name, but essentially a hacker, and all of these different kind of modifications were available as well. So you could like get cyborg enhancements. But I don't have any interest in the video game, I'm afraid. I had a look at it, and yeah, it's certainly interesting, but it's just one of those things where I could see it's going to take me a lot of hours to get any reasonable kind of payout from it, and I don't think the hours that I'm going to put in are going to be paying off for me.
No.
The initial problems that the game has had, from reports I've heard as well, kind of leave a little bit of cautiousness. As well, and I think even with the fix that they've put in, and I appreciate that they've put a lot of work into it, I just don't think I'm going to be sinking the hours in.
No,
I probably mentioned on a previous podcast that I'd rather have a shorter, higher quality, more condensed experience rather than one that's drawn out over like 80 to 100 hours, and Cyberpunk definitely looks like an 80 to 100 hours job.
Yeah, that... As you mentioned there, sort of a shorter experience but a good quality experience, that seems to be in quite high demand these days, with obviously a lot of people, a lot of gamers, working full time, family life, etc. They're still wanting to play a game with a story, but they can't sort of sink their teeth into a game such as Fallout, Cyberpunk, so no, I totally get that, totally understand that. The one thing I will say though, would this tempt you to try this? Because I don't know if you know this or not, there's a 5-hour free trial of Cyberpunk 2077 available for on PS5 and Xbox Series X and S.
Sales are bad when they have to give it away for free.
Well, it's a 5
after they've previously refunded all the sales.
Well, I don't think they've made any money so far on it, have they?
Probably not. But yeah. So they're giving you a 5-hour free trial,
it's the world's
which
most expensive free game.
5-hour free trial.
5 hours, you're just going to create a character there, aren't you? You ain't going to get much further.
We're halfway through character creation, you mean?
Yeah.
But no, if any of the listeners as well are wanting to take advantage of that, it's available until March the 15th. So if you do own a PlayStation 5, if you're lucky enough to own one, because they're still so hard to get hold of, and Xbox Series X and S owners, you've got until the 15th of March to claim that 5-hour free trial. Okay, so guys, we're going to finish the Cyberpunk chat right there, and I've got a bone to pick with you guys before we move on to our lovely segment that we've got.
I thought you were going to say you had a boner with us.
Yeah, you got me excited as well, Barney.
Well, that too. No. Now, listeners, anybody who listened last week, I'm pretty sure I said it on the podcast. I was going to sort out a little theme tune for our Trash or Stash segment.
Oh, don't play it, Luigi.
Now,
this is where Luigi can't take constructive criticism.
No. Hang on, guys. Now, I specifically remember being told that the Trash or Stash theme tune needs to be really cheesy. So that's what I went for. I went for cheese. And I
went for Antique Golden Girls theme tune from the 60s.
Right, hang on. Just for the viewers, I'm going to play it.
You went for extra mature.
Oh, no.
Hang on, right. For the viewers, for the listeners, sorry, I'm going to play it.
Oh, I know. Then we can either say whether we trash or stash it.
Yeah.
Listeners, it's been good knowing you all.
No, but now...
Godspeed.
You guys who are on with me, you won't be able to hear this, even though you've already listened to it.
Rip 1,000 downloads, guys. It's not happening.
So, right, here we go. So this, bear in mind, I was told, Trash or Stash needs to be cheese. Now, this is the audio.
It's not cheese.
Right, hang on. We'll let the listeners decide.
It's got a gorgonzola.
Hang on. Ready? I'm going to play it. I'll let you guys know once it's done, because like I said, you won't hear it. So, quiet in here for a moment. Yeah. Now that to me is pure cheese. Okay, guys. No, I said you guys won't hear it. I said you guys won't. On the podcast, the guys listening will be able to hear it. Now it's fine, but I'm being told. You see, I'm being told right cheese, and then now I'm being expected to like do a whole, I don't know, retro Sega Mega Drive, Nintendo, tune.
You need a bit of synth. Andy said, you need
which one, cheese or synth?
So you can have cheesy synth.
Really? I don't know how you can do cheesy synth.
I haven't heard it yet, so I
You
can't
missed the
comment.
brief. That's not cheese. That's like ancient.
Well, it sounds like it could be brilliant, Luigi. I just need to hear it.
My issue is it's not thematic. It's not thematic with video games.
Fair enough. Wow. So anyway,
with old people's homes.
He took inspiration off Michael Barrymore's "Strike It Lucky."
Well, anyway, my point being is the main point I'm trying to make is I apologise to the listeners. I haven't got the theme tune ready, but I'm going to be working hard on it.
It's a work in progress.
But he's meeting with Dr. Dre and Kanye this week, and he's going to be hitting it for 6. So he's going to drop it
50 Cent, Jay-Z.
It's a work in progress.
Well, you are the notorious Luigi.
Yes, the notorious Luigi.
Some say it's a work in progress. Others say it's a work that's had no progress. But we're not really too sure what yet.
Good. Right. Anyway, so moving on. So we are now doing Trash or Stash. Now,
like it matters, all the listeners are switched off. But anyway,
yeah. Okay, I'm gonna go first, please. With this, and what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna give you my stash. So we'll go around and do our stash. Now, this game, I absolutely love it. Barnaby's tested it out. He's not really got, he's not managed to sink his teeth into it, and that is Generation Zero. It came out in 2019, and to me, it's just the perfect game in the sense of what I mean by that. So basically, it's set in 1989 Sweden. You've gone. You've been away with friends somewhere on an island. You come back to your home, and it's been taken over by robots. Now, it's all open world, and the map is huge, and you can tackle it how you like with up to 3 friends. So 4 of you can play together. Again, it's all open world, looting. You can loot the robots once you've killed them, loot houses, cars, everything. There's a crafting system, skill point system. You can customise your character. And it is one of those games that, again, with people being so busy, work life, home life, etc., you can just jump in and out. So, if your friend's on, you can jump into their game, vice versa. Like, it basically, you don't have to wait for the quote unquote host to be online, because when you play together, it just saves the progress for everybody. And yeah, it's just one of those ones that you can jump on, do a bit of looting, do a sort of mission or something. You don't have to sit there for hours on end. And the fact that you can just jump in and out at will when you have time to join in with your friends, it's fantastic. Me and Tony, Commando Para, and even my son, we played it for 2 days in a row, and we had an absolute blast on it. So yeah, I'll be playing that a lot more, and that's definitely one for the stash for me. Anyway, I've waffled on long enough. Sam, what's your stash?
My stash is game called Blossom Tales: The Sleeping King.
Wow.
I need to Google that.
That is a beautiful title.
Yes, it's actually an amazing game. To be fair, it's a one like I can't express how much of a stash this game truly is. So, available on, as far as I know, Steam and Switch eShop.
Mm-hmm.
I got it off the Switch eShop. Surprise, surprise. The reason I ended up downloading and finding this game was because I was looking for a game that was similar to the Legend of Zelda: Link to the Past that was on the Super Nintendo.
Yeah.
And I actually did play this back when it was roughly roundabout when it got released, actually, which was back in March 2017. So yeah, I was looking for a game similar to that, and there was, yeah, as you can imagine, there's quite a long list of games, and I just so happened to come across this. Did a bit of reading on it, and it just like kind of ticked all the boxes, you know, for something that was similar to Zelda, and the reviews on it were like really good. Like everyone was like, yeah, this game's great. Like, you know, really sort of get that sort of, you know, 16-bit sort of vibe off it. The soundtracks are good. I mean, it is a Zelda rip-off, to be fair, but it's an extremely good one.
It's like, a decent one, is it?
Yeah, yeah. So it's really just about you're this girl, becomes a knight, and the king is put under a spell from the king. Well, the king's brother puts him under a spell. He's basically like the evil wizard. He puts his brother under a spell because he wants to take control of, you know, the kingdom or the world or whatever. And then basically you're this young girl who's just been knighted, becomes a knight, and you have to basically go out on a quest, an adventure. And you have to do a lot of puzzle solving, go through dungeons, you know, get like bits and pieces that to help break the spell and all that kind of stuff. So, but yeah, it's just a really, really solid game, like literally right from start to finish. I actually picked this game up and I did not stop playing it until I finished it. And again, there's only a few games that over the last probably five years or so that I've actually done that with, and this is one of them. And funny enough, I thought because this was like, because I know we've obviously been talking about our trashes and stashes. I was thinking, what game can I go with for the stash this week? And then I remembered from last week I did mention I already had one, and the reason, and it actually was this one, and the reason for me mentioning that is because I ended up booting it back up and starting it again, and I thought, you know, I'm going to give it another playthrough because it'd been so long, and I'm playing through it at the moment again, and still loving absolutely every minute. And then I go and find out that there's a second one that's going to be released, and there was a trailer that came out like 3 months ago for it, and it's meant to be released this year, so I was like super hyped for that. So yeah, if you guys get a minute, I don't know how much it is or how much it costs on Steam or anything. Can't imagine it being.
It's around the £10 mark when I looked a moment ago. Yes.
Yeah, $10.99 currently.
Yeah.
So worth $10.99. Like, seriously, just watch some trailers, check out some of the images, clips, and that. It is brilliant. Like, seriously, if you like those kind of games, obviously. Yeah. If you're not into them, you're not into them. But yeah, very good, well worth playing. If anyone else who's into those kind of games, or you're looking for something to bring a little bit of that nostalgia 16-bit vibe back, along with you know, just a solid story and gameplay to go with it, then yeah, Blossom Tales: The Sleeping King is one to check out.
Lovely, thank you for that, Sam. Trip Hazard, can we have your stash, please, for the week?
Yeah, so I'm going to go for a themed pair of games again. So, actually taking inspiration from this week's theme, I'm going to pick two games that were inspired by movies, but not direct tie-ins. They've taken inspiration from films, but not directly linked. So, my first choice is Dead Rising. So this is one of the early release games on the Xbox 360.
Yeah, it was a release title, wasn't it? I believe
it was indeed, and part of the reason was it was meant to show off the 360's capabilities compared to the previous generation.
Yeah,
because you had so many zombies on the screen at once. There was literally hundreds of zombies on the screen, and it was really impressive. The physics engine as well meant you can pick up a variety of mundane objects and use them as weapons. So you could use things like bowling balls, TVs, various kitchen implements, soft toys, basically anything. So this was set in the mall. Essentially, this was the video game version almost of John Romero's classic Dawn of the Dead from the early 1970s. It took a heavy inspiration from that film, and it's probably inspired by other films in the zombie genre as well. But I was just really engrossed in it. Even though the controls were a little bit janky, it was just so much fun, just beating up zombies and using a variety of weapons, discovering new areas. You were also at the same time racing against the clock. There are various survivors who are in dangerous situations, and you had to kind of pick and choose because you just didn't have enough time to get from one end of the shopping mall to the other and save everyone. So sometimes you just had to pick people out, and sometimes you're lucky and get 3 or 4 survivors on the trot before you headed back to your safe room. But other times you'd struggle and you get caught up in this horde of zombies and you just couldn't make it out, and the timer would expire, and these survivors would be basically ripped to shreds by the zombies. You actually got a little cutscene as well showing how you'd failed horribly. But it also had a few RPG elements as well, so you could increase your health bar, you could learn new moves, and the moves that your protagonist Frank had were kind of these weird kind of kung fu moves as well. Oh, right. So it is a game that didn't take itself seriously at all. So you had things like flying kicks, and you had things like wrestling moves where you'd pick up 2 zombies at once and slam both of their heads into the ground at the same time. So it was very tongue-in-cheek, much like the original Dawn of the Dead was. So yeah, that's definitely my stash game for this week. Dead Rising. If you've not tried it, I recommend it.
Very nice. I have to admit, Dead Rising is one of the games that I basically I've committed myself to complete some old titles as well as obviously newer ones. So one of the older titles is actually Dead Rising, and I have got part way through, and I can't remember the exact bit I'm on, but I know I'm stuck basically, and I keep trying to get past it. But the thing with that game, I felt, as you said, there's so many different survivors and things. For me, it almost feels like it just overwhelms you with how many things there are to do, and you have to sort of make a choice. Do I go and save, those people over there? Do I save them? And
I think that was part of the intention. I think that's the deliberate design decision to overwhelm you with choice.
Yeah, and they've definitely,
as you would be in a genuine situation.
Oh yeah,
because although it is tongue in cheek and in a way it's almost cartoonish, how over the top and ultra violent it can be, it still retains that sense of kind of irony, and that the worst villains aren't really the zombies, but it's actually the humans. Are the real villains of the game. Much like in George Romero's films, and also that it does encourage you to play through the game again, because I think on New Game Plus you actually retain all of your abilities. So after you've completed it once, you go back and you'll be at your previous level, rather than starting it as a level 1 with no abilities, so you can actually tear through the zombies that much quicker. So that is also a mechanic to encourage replay value, I think.
Oh, nice. Yeah, I mean, it is a fantastic game. All the different combinations of weapons that you can use. It's definitely one, as you said. I think if if the original Dead Rising game passed you by, I would definitely recommend giving it a try, as Barnaby said, because it is a lot of fun. So yeah, that's a very good stash Barnaby. That's it'd definitely be in my stash as well. So yeah, thank you for that, Andy. Now,
Hello.
Can we have your stash of the week, please?
The stash. Yes. Toe Jam and Earl, the original on the Mega Drive.
What a beauty!
Good choice.
It's my stash. Both from, I think it was a very unique game back in the day, but also it has sentimental value to me.
Yeah.
So for the listeners who haven't played it, Toe Jam and Earl, effectively you've got two rap hip hop aliens from the planet Funkatron. They crash land on planet Earth. Planet Earth is broken up into a series of islands.
Mm-hmm.
It's a sort of it's a third, three-quarter perspective, top-down.
Yeah, isometric. That used to be called in the day.
Isometric, like Zombies Ate My Neighbours. You've got antagonists on the island. It could be an ice cream man. It could be a chicken with a gun. Like all random things playing into sort of pop culture or back in the 90s. Had a very sort of cool, jazzy hip hop soundtrack. A lot of sort of urban slang. It's quite edgy for its day. And you had to search the islands for basically to find the parts to repair your ship to get back to your home planet. Likewise, you could find random gift wrap presents across the island, which give you power ups. And obviously, you're having to fight and fend off the Earth's inhabitants. Sounds a bit meh. However, when you play it, it had a real nice playability about it, and it also it was one of the first games to introduce me to sort of couch co-op. So it's split screen co-op, and when you were playing two player, there was new dialogue and sort of new comical jokes that were shared between the characters. It was also, instead of just a split screen, you shared the screen where you're on the same screen, and then it split when you went further afield. There was the cooperative strategy element to it, fighting against the clock, or one of you might go off and then you're going to get cornered and killed by the enemies. So there was just it was an element of strategy to it, but it was one of the first games that I have fond memories of playing co-op. It was with my American uncle back in the day. He introduced it to me on the Genesis as opposed to the Mega Drive. Had great fun playing it, and picked up my own copy, carried on playing at home, loved it. Like I say, it was just edgy. It was different. Touching on to back in the movie conversation we were having, it was unique. There was nothing else like it. And I think, as far as I'm aware, it's become a bit of a sort of cult classic with the Sega kids. It was. I don't think it was intended to be one of sort of Sega's main titles. And I don't even know whether it was back in the day, but especially as time's gone on, it has.
It was critically acclaimed. Yeah, I think even back in the day, I remember reading Sega magazines because I was a Sega kid before I was a Nintendo kid. It was critically regarded, at least. I don't know how popular it was, how well it sold, but yeah, it was critically highly regarded.
As far as I'm aware, Toe Jam and Earl, they were quite an important fixture for Sega. Obviously they had Sonic, but I think Toe Jam and Earl were up there. There was a subsequent sequel on the Mega Drive. I wasn't a fan, but it was still well received. It just lost the isometric view. It was more of a scrolling platformer. But yeah, the original to me, it just combined good co-op play, humor, unique characters, unique soundtrack, bit of strategy to it. And yeah, I just enjoyed that. And even today, they sort of did a reboot on the Switch. I imagine it's on other consoles, but I picked it up on the Switch a couple of years back. And it was back to the isometric view and obviously your nice graphics and polished and that. And yeah, still to this day, I quite enjoyed that, and I don't know, just like it. So that is my stash.
Did you ever play the Xbox remake?
I didn't know.
Okay, yes. Yeah.
That was just wondering about that. 3, wasn't it?
Yep.
Yeah, that was a scrolling platformer again, though, wasn't it?
No, I think it was a 3D Explorer map.
It's even worse. It's the isometric view that sold it to me.
That the first one, Andy, with the isometric view. I haven't actually played that one. My first experience with Toe Jam and Earl was with the second game where it was like the platformer, 2D platformer. But for me, that I thought that game was awesome. So yeah, the Toe Jam and Earl series in general, I think It's just...
You need to play the first. Even if not the first, get the reboot that was, like I say, I imagine it's on other consoles now.
Yeah.
It was rebooted like a year or two ago. And it's exactly the same play style, gameplay, humour as the original. Pretty fun.
Very nice. Well, thank you very much for your stash, Mr. Andy. Now, the bit that everyone really wants to know is what we're putting in our trash. So for me, this week, now this was a game, again, I've not played it in my sort of adult years. This is from when I had it on the Sega Mega Drive, when I was probably about 6-7 years old, and that is James Pond. Did you guys ever play that?
Which one? Robocod or James Pond 3?
I had James Pond Robocod.
Oh, yes.
Wait, you stash Bubsy, but you trash James Pond? How do you distinguish the difference between them?
Because
I would actually say that James Bond has better controls.
Exactly,
even
that's
though it's
what
also
I
a game, but it controls better.
One,
yeah, but no, but again,
just making them up.
No, but again, it goes back to it goes back. It goes back to your own personal memories, doesn't it? I mean, I remember having a fun time with Bubsy. I do, I don't remember having a good time with James Pond. It was one of those, sometimes when you put a game on and you attempt to enjoy the game.
Clearly, you haven't played James Pond at the Aquatic Games.
No, I haven't, admittedly.
That's a fun game.
Where James Pond Robo,
but quite different from the platformer.
It's true.
Yeah, so that particular game really was not a fun. I did, as I said, I did try a few times to give it a go, and it just, I remember it just feeling like I said, like when you're really pushing yourself to try and enjoy something. So for me, I'd stick that in my trash. So
I agree. It's not a fun game. Interesting concept, because essentially your character could like stretch up and grab hold of the ceiling.
Yeah.
And then crawl along the ceiling, and then he stretches his body back down to step back on the ground. So there's an interesting mechanic, but it just wasn't fun.
Yeah.
It just wasn't fun. It was novel, but it wasn't fun.
Yeah, that's
games they're well received. If you look, most James Bond games are very popular.
But in my opinion, it wasn't fun.
Yeah, no, same here. So, Barnaby, I think you're next up, aren't you, to give us your trash?
Yeah, so I am also going to pick a movie-themed game, and it's quite famously.
You did just skip me. Sorry, Barnaby.
No, hang on. So who was after me then? With
I was after you, bud, but it's okay. Barney, continue.
Right, Sam, we'll come to you next.
You clearly have one favourite, Luigi.
I'm sorry.
Oh, poor Sam's been demoted.
Yeah, Barnaby, carry on.
Okay, I will. Sorry, Sam.
No, I would say it's rude to interrupt, but I just felt the need to put Luigi to make Luigi feel slightly bad. He doesn't really care, but please continue, Barney.
Well, yeah, I mean, we need to trash him every week at least once or twice. So
yeah.
Well, this is when that happens coming from a man that has put James Pond in a trash after bringing out one of his Let's just not even get into what he's been going on about with his trash and stash over the last couple of weeks, because his points are relevant to be honest. So.
any birthday and Christmas gifts to Luigi, any birthday and Christmas gifts are cheap as chips because you find them in the bargain bins.
Exactly.
50p classics.
Yeah. Cheap date me.
Yeah, so it's a series that is famously film inspired, very cinematic. Metal Gear Solid 3, The Snake Eater, was the least interesting of the series, in my opinion.
Right.
Inspired by a lot of Cold War films, and also, you could arguably say things like Rambo, the jungle survival theme.
Mm-hmm.
And it had all the makings and concepts of a really good game. But it was just tedious. So you'd think, like, being outside in the wilderness, because the previous games were always set around military bases, pretty much.
Yeah.
So it had a very sort of urban, concrete, or utilitarian aesthetic, whereas Metal Gear Solid 3 was much more jungle. There were some sort of caves and rivers and other areas like that, but much more open, much more out there in the wild.
Yeah.
And there were a lot of things to like about it, but it just didn't gel as a fun experience. So things like treating yourselves, you could use different items to treat yourself for injuries, which was interesting the first couple of times, but it quickly became tedious. And then things like hiding in the bushes, sneaking through the undergrowth. You think again that would be interesting and cool, but it got tedious really quickly. And also, I couldn't really get into the plot or the characters. It was more of a prequel rather than a sequel to the previous games in the series. So it was interesting to see what they were doing with the plot, but it just didn't work, and I couldn't force myself to finish it, so I stopped playing maybe about a quarter of the way in. So yeah. Whereas with all of the previous games in the series, actually in preparation for playing Metal Gear Solid, I actually dug out the emulators and I played the original Metal Gear on NES and Metal Gear 2 on an obscure format called MSX. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that at all. Before playing Metal Gear Solid, and then I also played Metal Gear Solid 2 as well. Enjoyed both of those games, but 3 just didn't do it for me. So it's going in the trash.
Yeah, fair enough.
That's quite controversial as well, because I'm not a big Metal Gear Solid fan, but I've just had a quick Google. And Metal Gear Solid 3 is actually rated amongst the better of the Metal Gear Solid games.
Yeah, I don't agree with them. I don't agree with them.
They're wrong.
I would actually go a bit hipster and say that Ghost Babel is the best Metal Gear game of all time, which was actually a kind of a remake, although it was released not very long after. It was actually a remake of Metal Gear Solid on the Game Boy Color, but it's just so tight. The controls are tight, graphics are displayed nicely, the sound is emotive. It actually even manages to squeeze some cutscenes in. So if you get a chance to play it, I'd actually say that if you're going to play any Metal Gear game at all, from past or present, then Metal Gear Solid or Metal Gear Ghost Babel, as its original title is called on the Game Boy Color, is the best.
Okay.
Well, Barney sneakily taking a second stash in there as well.
Yeah.
I like the style.
No, thank you very much. Thank you very much for your your trash. And
me next, Luigi, innit?
No, I'm not falling for that. No, you nearly had me for a second then. Sam, chuck your trash at us. What you got?
Haven't got one.
Oh!
You broke his heart, Luigi.
I have got one. Now, Luigi, you are not going to agree with me because this is Xbox Connect related.
Okay.
But Connect Sports was awful.
Oh no, don't do this to me, please.
No, Connect Adventures was pretty
Sam
good.
gets his revenge.
Connect Adventures was pretty good, but Connect Sports was a disaster.
What about the second one, or is it just the first one?
No, the first one.
Okay, I'll let you have that. Okay.
The first one was pretty bad. Now, it had all the makings to be good, and from what you would read and see before it was released, it was like, yeah, this is going to be pretty cool, you know. Stand in front of my camera, I'm going to do all the actions, I'm going to be able to do all this cool stuff. But when you actually played it, it was so crap. I don't care what anyone says. It just did not work. Like, unless it was you were perfectly positioned, it was so glitchy and clunky and horrible.
I think that is a thing. In theory, having a camera sense your movements to input into the game is a great idea, but in practice, you have to have like the technical capability needs to be spot on to get the inputs right, and also do the inputs lag free and error free as well.
Yeah, and I think that it was a bit too much of a step too far forward for Microsoft at the time with the tech we had. It was the right. Do you know what I mean? Like, I'm not saying it was wrong what they tried to do in the sense of, you know, I get it. It's a cool concept, and if executed perfectly, would have been amazing. But it just we didn't have the tech wasn't powerful enough to for what they were trying to achieve with it. If you know what I mean. I think even now, if they did it, I mean, I think it would be pretty good, like pretty close. But I think even now there would still be some ever so slight.
Yeah, I think they might be able to do it if they had some like AI engine behind it as well. I think it probably could. I think
they probably could do it now.
Well.
Yeah, they probably could do it now. To be fair, but at the time that came out, which was what 2010 was it? Somewhere around 11.
Yeah, 2010, 11. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I just remember I bought one. I bought a Kinect. I bought the game. Well, I think it came with my Kinect. I'm sure it did.
I think
but anyway,
the Adventures game came with it, didn't it?
Ah, that was it. Yeah, I know I got one of them with the Kinect, and I definitely bought the other one. And yeah, it was awful. I hated it. I didn't mind the Adventures one, although that was still pretty glitchy. Yeah. It was a bit more fun because of the you had like the rapids and all that kind of stuff. That was quite cool. But the actual Kinect Sports, just that's trash, I'm afraid.
The only thing with that I'd say is, personally, the one that worked very well within that game was the bowling. I found the bowling worked extremely well.
The bowling was okay. You know, as long as you were positioned, it did work. But I know it was a slightly different concept to the Wii. But the bowling on the Wii, which came up before that, which I know you still used a remote, but it was motion controlled, I found was far more accurate and a better, more fun experience than what the bowling was on that Kinect Sports. Even though that came out, I know it's slightly different. You can't fully compare the two, but me, you know what I'm saying. I'd already played like that motion sort of like bowling sort of style game, and the Nintendo, although graphically it looked awful, and I know it's slightly different again with the motion coming from the controller as opposed to just your free movement of the body. It was so much more accurate on the Nintendo than what Xbox tried to do the next thing beyond what they had done, and it just didn't work, in my opinion, or at least it didn't in the beginning.
Yeah. No. Totally, I do agree with you, Sam. In the grand scheme of it, I definitely agree with what you're saying.
So that's a trash for me, I'm afraid.
Yeah.
I know you're a big fan of the old Kinect, but sorry.
Well,
mate.
I'll be honest with you. That I'm just before we move on to Andy, I'll just briefly. The reason as well the Kinect has a close place to my heart is because my late grandfather, bless him, who's no longer with us, obviously, when we had a get together, it was some point over like the Christmas period, and bear in mind he was on, at this point he was on crutches, not even crutches, I think, what's it called, even a Zimmer frame thing at some point. But anyway, I had Kinect Sports 2, and if you remember on there was skiing, wasn't there, on the second game, and there was a mode where you could go head to head. Now, bear in mind, my grandfather, he was 80 odd years old, old Italian man, didn't speak much English. Technology was something that was totally foreign to him. And me and him still went head to head on this skiing, and I've got a video of him on this, playing this with me, stood next to each other, and he just had such a smile on his face whilst doing this, and for me that's why the Kinect, if it weren't for the Kinect, I would have never have had that experience with him, and it's just something that will live in my heart forever, basically. So
that is an amazing story and sentimental story, and that fully justifies defending and having a place in your heart for those shit games. But you haven't got one of those stories for Bad Boys 2 and Bubs.
Oh, leave it out.
Doesn't dig you out of that hole.
Leave it out. I'll think of one ready for next week to defend myself. Anyway, that's why I love the Kinect as much as I do. But anyway, moving on. Andy, throw me your trash, please.
we've had some controversial choices this evening, but I think I'm gonna get the tip of the iceberg on controversy. My trash is the best-selling game of all time. Who knows what it is?
Best-selling game of all time.
Okay, this is interesting. Best-selling game of all time.
Not just by a little bit, by a massive margin. It's the best-selling game in the history of games.
Tetris.
World of Warcraft.
No, both in the top 50. Tetris, I think, is like number 3 or 4.
Is it a Call of Duty title? Minecraft.
Is it really?
Wow.
Yeah. It's massively I think GTA 4. Is it GTA 5? Yeah, GTA 5 is the second best selling. I think Tetris is like third. But Minecraft, by a massive margin, is the best selling game ever in the history of games. Yeah. So obviously Minecraft. You look anywhere, positive reviews, ridiculous amount of player base, best selling game of all time. It's just not for me. And it's strange because I'm a real life Lego fan and a Lego collector, and you would think building sims and sandbox games would be my mecca, but it's not. I've tried it, and it's just meh. I just don't get it. Mm-hmm. Yes, it's a sandbox game. Obviously, you don't have goals and sort of missions and things. I understand that aspect, but there's just nothing there. It just doesn't feel like a game I'd want to plow my life into. And it seems like all these, a lot of players are in Minecraft, especially the younger generation. The amount of hours and days and weeks and months and years they're losing to this game, and for what? At the end of the day, it's a building sim. If if someone wants to play with their imagination, actually get some building blocks or get some sheet metal and some wood and go crazy with real world stuff. Or if you want to learn graphical building models, get yourself on some CAD software. It's just, I can't understand why you'd want to commit so many hours of your lifetime to play this game that to me is just meh.
Yeah.
And I am actually the same. I am not. I kind of see some of the appeal. I do, but not to the point where you would say that's the best selling game of all time.
Exactly, and people who play it though, they live on it, don't they? I mean, people have made an income just streaming it. Like YouTubers and that. Some of them have made the name for themselves.
Well, there's a YouTuber called Damn the Diamond Minecraft, I think it's called. He's like one of the biggest Minecraft streamers, and a guy that I work with, his missus went to school with that guy. Yeah, he's literally like a multi-millionaire from three. And
just from one game, isn't it?
Yeah, just from streaming Minecraft.
You see, I agree, Andy, that should be in the trash, because I can't think of a more mind-numbing game to play than that, personally.
I'm actually going to disagree and say that there's a number of different ways to play it, and building is not for me, but I actually enjoy what it does in multiplayer exploration. So when you play Minecraft in multiplayer and you just go exploring, like over the hills, through the forests, or even like digging down into the caves, that's where it really shines. Yeah, I think it would be a worthy game in that sense. But the actual building side of it doesn't do it for me. But exploration-wise, I actually quite admire how huge an open world they managed to create inside this simple-looking game.
But surely if you're exploring something, would you not want to explore something that looks decent? Why do I want to explore something that's like...
No, it's a retro aesthetic, isn't it? Yeah, if you've ever played games like roguelikes, for example, that's what it really is. So in the old days, there was these very primitive, or at least primitive-looking RPGs called roguelikes, which only used either very basic tile sets, and essentially Minecraft is just an expansion of that, but rather than have just primitive graphical tiles, it actually uses 3D blocks instead, although they're also primitive 3D blocks, but that is the idea, I think.
Right. Well,
it's still firmly in my trash.
I think, but
still, we can agree to disagree.
Barnaby has jogged my memory due to the fact that the only reason I tried this game out is because at one point in time, my son did enjoy playing the game. However, he's not touched it in a long time, but yeah, he did enjoy playing it, and he liked playing split screen with me. And there was the odd bit where I enjoyed it, but for the most part, it was like, oh, not Minecraft again. But then he actually introduced me, as Barnaby said, to like the online side of things, and there was one particular game mode I played on there. It was like, I think it was like a prop hunt thing where there was one hunter and the rest of you had to like hide, and you could be like a chair, you could be, all sorts of different things. But then once you were found, you would join the hunt for the others, and it was actually quite a lot of fun. But other than that, the rest of the game, it was just, yeah, as Andy said, it was just a bit meh for me. So
I think that, well, I've met I say a kid I've met. I think he's 15 or 16, and there's a lad I used to know, and he used to live and breathe Minecraft to the extent he had actually done like this full design of an airport, as in it was an airport that is designed in Minecraft. And I was like, Jesus Christ, like, how long has that took you? And he said, like, 5-6 months or something. It was like, oh my God, if you'd have put 6 months into some CAD software, like, you're going to be a future architect. You put 6 months into this shit, and you're going to be left with nothing. I just don't get that bit. And from a gameplay point of view, there's a game called Lego Worlds that came out, very similar to Minecraft. I actually found that was quite enjoyable. Just Minecraft I didn't. And going into Barney's exploration, I can appreciate that side. I actually really enjoy exploration games. But again, it just looks like I'm just looking at shit. I think if I was young,
I think if we were younger and it was readily available when we were, say, in our, I don't know, early teens, maybe something like that, or whatever, I think we would have probably maybe played, appreciated, and got into it a bit more. But I think I know what you're saying. Like, I kind of look at it and just think it's a bit meh. Like, yeah, I get the concept, the exploration. You get to play with friends. You can do all. You're basically you're free to kind of build and do what you like. And like, I see my little brother's playing
sandbox games, isn't it? So
yeah, exactly, yeah. And I see my little brothers playing it. And to be fair, they're all having a right laugh. They do stuff that I don't think's even like remotely funny. But then, when you're a kid, your sense of humour is completely, it changes, doesn't it, as you get older or whatever. And I'm not saying that older people can't enjoy Minecraft. They can, but I don't see that appeal there for myself now, but I probably would have if I was like 20 years younger, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
But yeah.
And I'll go back to what I originally said. This is just my personal opinion. I know.
Yeah, of course, yeah, that's what this is.
It is I dare say it's a good game. Yeah, it's got all the fundamentals there. I agree with what Barney's saying. It's a good game, but for me, yeah.
That's what the trash and stash
I'm not going to pick it up.
It's personal opinions.
Yeah, exactly. Trash or stash is our personal opinions. Like, as you said, Andy, the game itself, it must be a decent game for how much it sold. But for you personally, if you put it in the trash and you never saw it again, it wouldn't bother you. So
I think it's more as well, like, I'm a massive Lego fan. So, like, when Minecraft first came out, I was like, oh, God, this is going to be amazing. Yeah. And then I played it, I was like, what the fuck? Maybe I built up too much high hopes, I don't know.
Maybe. Oh, talking about that, actually, have you tried out the Lego Builder's Journey game, Andy?
Haven't, no.
Did you not know about this game?
I didn't. I'm hanging on to the Star Wars saga that's finally coming out soon.
Well, you see, Lego Builder's Journey is a puzzle game developed by Lightbrick Studio and published by the Lego Group. I thought that would be a game that you would have played.
Yes, I have heard about this, and I was supposed to download that, and I haven't got round to doing it.
Okay. I really thought that would be one that you would have sort of sunk your teeth into, being a Lego builder.
And I completely forgot about it. Yeah. I have seen this, yeah.
Yeah, Lego Builder's Journey. I'm surprised. So, is that one you're gonna visit at some point?
Again, I'm not gonna 100% commit, because to me, I like the tangible aspect of building.
Mm-hmm.
Using the dexterity and feeling it, touching it. So I don't know. Do I need a video game to build blocks when I've actually got the blocks?
Yeah, I see what you mean.
You could argue, sorry for the kid listeners, is virtual reality sex the same as sex? Of course it's not. So why would you do it? So it's the same as why do I want to build Lego bricks without Lego bricks? I can build it with the bloody bricks.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. It's fair enough. Well, we all had quite a different variety of games there. So, any listeners that agree or disagree with anything that we have put in our trash or in our stash, contact us. And the email you can contact us at is luigisgaminglounge@gmail.com. It's luigisgaminglounge@gmail.com. Pop by, say hello, tell us we're wrong, we're right, and we'll give you a shout out on the podcast. Also, before we wrap up now, guys, I have spoken with our number one fan, Affy Benz.
Hey.
And
he's our only fan after playing that jingle earlier.
Yeah, possibly. But no, he should be with us, hopefully, on the podcast next week. So he'll be recording with us. And I was thinking maybe we can get some questions together for him. We know that he's...
Like an interrogation, make sure he's decent quality for the lounge.
Well, you see, we've got
initiation.
We've got an enemy coming into the gaming lounge because he's a PlayStation fanboy. No, I'm joking. We are against.
I welcome all formats.
I was going to say console wars in the gaming lounge, other than with the exception of Out of Time Ecto 1 Andy, we do not indulge in console wars. Okay,
I don't indulge in wars. It's not a war. It's a clear win.
Exactly.
The red button.
So yeah, no, everyone's welcome. But so I thought maybe from now till next week, if we could all maybe just think of something that we'd like to ask him. Again, he does enjoy PlayStation. He loves his racing games as well. So yeah, and we're looking forward to obviously having him on. And
yourself.
What's that?
Just a couple of things actually, just before we go.
Yeah.
Next week, I will be attending, but I might be at the LAN event because I'm going to the Epic LAN next weekend. So that starts on Thursday, but I haven't made my mind up whether I'm going on Thursday or Friday yet. So.
Okay.
I just need to, but I'll let you guys know.
Keep us in the loop with that, Sam.
Be honest, Sam. If you do turn up on a Thursday, you'll have to go last because there's yet another person to go before you. Luigi's made his decision.
It's also my birthday tomorrow, and I thought that we'd actually have the decency to have a shout out.
Do you know what? That's why I just went because I was just going to say, Sam, I was going to give you a shout out, but at the end of the show, but whatever.
After you reminded him, Sam.
Of course he was.
I swore.
Oh damn!
I swear. No, I swear down now. All right, I was leaving it till the end of the show to sort of turn around and say, right, everybody, Sam's birthday tomorrow.
That's
just another way to again leave Sam till last. Yeah,
that's it. Yeah, just leave you till the end.
I'm going to put it in post production.
The end is the most important part, Sam.
I mean, apart from today, I'm normally
you can't beat a good climax.
Apart from, with the exception of today, I normally turn up before everyone else. Yeah, I'm always put to the back. So
that's such a lie. Such a lie. But no,
you may be last in the podcast, but you're first in our hearts.
Exactly.
That's a hallmark card right there.
I'm going to go. Just excuse you, I'll throw up in the bog.
But no, genuinely, Sam, I was going to give you a shout out, but you spoiled it, so.
I don't see how I spoiled something you forgot, but anyway.
I did not. But no, genuinely, I hope you do have a great day tomorrow, whether or not you are travelling up north or not, because there seems to be
a tornado.
Some bad weather.
Snowstorm.
Warnings.
Yeah, well, we'll see. We'll see if
It might be the last time we speak to him.
So what's the plan if you're not travelling tomorrow? Are you literally staying at home, or what's going on?
traveling. Don't you worry about that, buddy.
You're definitely going to travel.
It's
Come
a
hell or
British
high
storm.
water.
At best, a fucking Sulo bin gets blown over, doesn't it? Let's be honest.
Yeah, like pretty much. I'm
Right.
sure I'll be fine, but yeah, I don't know. If it's really, really, really bad, then I'm sure we'll find somewhere relatively local to go for some lunch and do some birthday celebrations of some sort. But yeah, hoping it's not as bad as people or the Met Office are making out.
Yeah, fingers crossed. What are you celebrating? Your 50th?
No, 60th actually, bud.
What, 30? I'm going to say 31.
No,
32.
You're
No,
right.
what am I talking
I'll
about?
take 31, but
32.
it's 32. Mate.
32.
Hey.
He's reaching level 32 tomorrow. Lovely
Yeah, level
jubbly.
32. So I've got it's nothing really big. I haven't really got a big one now until I get to 40. So, but apparently I've got a big surprise from the other half. She's gone all out. I basically, when I got back from work, I wasn't able to look in the living room. I basically had to close my eyes and make
Got you a stripper.
my way upstairs. So.
Oh,
Yeah,
that'd be
so
nice.
I just realised I knew you shared a birthday with my wife, but I didn't know you're both going to be the same age on that birthday as well.
Oh, what a coincidence.
So the irony is, you two might have been in the hospital at the same time.
We could have been. I was born in
yeah.
Peterborough Hospital.
Sam, it's Sam's birthday tomorrow, and he's 32, and he was born in Peterborough Hospital. You two would have been hospital buddies.
He literally would have been, yeah.
Could have been like next
What
door
time was she-
cribs.
What time was she born?
What time were you born?
I know mine was between 12 and 12:30 at night.
What time, sir? 3 o'clock in the morning.
Oh, okay. Well, I
Only
was,
3 hours difference.
I was born at I don't know the exact. It was between 12 and 12:30. I know that, but I can't.
You two would have been crib buddies.
Literally.
Wow, that's mad, isn't it? That is
Holy
crazy.
hell.
That is a small
Unbelievable.
world.
I've known your missus way longer than you, pal.
Yes, I've known you longer than I have. Steph just said your mum's probably chatted to her mum.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah. Probably shared oxygen. Gas and air. Here, borrow mine.
Oh, fantastic. That is cool.
Cool.
It's
Small world.
yeah, that's been episode 41, guys. We're going to wrap up there, and thank you very much for tuning in. And yeah, it's been a bit of a ride. We've spoken about the movies and TV shows. Some of them just scratched the surface really of them coming out. The Last of Us, Halo. Don't forget Pokemon Pikachu Detective 2. So yeah, and also the Cyberpunk update next gen. Remember that 5-hour trial. You've got until the 15th of March, 5-hour free trial to try that out.
Like you're trying to earn commission, but you're probably paying them, so they ain't make nothing.
Wow. It's yeah, that's like I said, episode 41. We will see you next week, and fingers crossed, everything being well, we will have Affy Benz with us. So enjoy the rest of your week, guys. See you soon. Till the next time.
See ya.
Bye.
See you later.
Bye.
Bye.